Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's
and you're like, hey, everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Selena Roane, your host for Close to Death, powered by D.T.M Wicked Radio, and brought to you by FEAR Paranormal Society. Tonight, I have a guest. Her name is Chewy Snyder. She is an award-winning author of 3 best-selling books about Texas: Unexpected Texas, which I have a copy of, Paranormal Texas, and the lynching of the Santa Claus bank robber. Chewy also loves taking pictures and photos and has been featured in a variety of publications, including Coast to Coast AM, Fox Travel News, WFAA News, and Planet I Traveler. In addition, Chewy is a speaker who enjoys giving presentations at libraries, conferences, and paranormal expos. She also jokes sometimes about how she became a travel writer simply because she moved around so much. After living in several United States, around here, she's been in Belgium, Italy, and a tiny island with a population of only 7 people. And she fell in love with a Texan, so she had to follow her heart over here to the Lone Star State where we currently are now. And she admits to experiencing as much culture shock here as she ever did overseas. I can only imagine. Now she considers Texas her home. So tonight on Close to Death, she's here to share a little bit about her books, her experiences, and why she decided to write to the cemetery symbolisms. What's up, Tui? How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. My cat's a little fussy, so if you hear a meowing, that's just her, but I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, no problem. I was talking with you earlier, and we had a lot of things in common, like our friend Teal Gray, and that you do some stuff on her show once a month, help her out.
Yeah, that is so fun.
And you also mentioned our team FEAR in one of your books. I believe it was the one after Unexpected Texas. I have to say it would have been the Paranormal Texas, if I might.
That's right.
Speculate on that one. So tell us a little bit about your books.
All right. Well, as you said, I do have 3 books out right now, but I've got more planned. I just can't seem to stop writing them. I guess there's worse habits to have. But, I've got my first book, that Unexpected Texas. That's a travel guide to offbeat and overlooked places. It's all places you can get to that are in the, Dallas, Fort Worth area. That's all North Texas. But there's so much here. Yeah, it's I think Texas is big, and I zeroed in on that area, and there's still so much there.
Yeah, you could do it in sections, actually. You could probably do it North Texas, East Texas, South Texas.
Yeah,
West
exactly.
Texas is pretty dry, but I'm sure there's a whole lot of haunted stuff out there as well, because like you said, it takes I don't know how many days to drive across the state, but it's craziness.
It is. Oh, there's a jail over in West Texas that I met the sheriff there, and I really want to see if he's up to, I don't want to just spring it on him first meeting, but I would really like to do a paranormal investigation there. So I don't know if FEAR would be interested in that, but that would be, I think, a really fun one. I was getting some feels in there while I was walking around. You would not want to be in that jail. So, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Rough, tough stuff over in West Texas, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. But, so Amazon, Unexpected Texas, you can get it on Amazon, or you can get it over at my website. You can get all my books either place. And, my website is just myname.com, so tuisnyder.com. I try to keep it kind of simple. And it's been doing pretty good. It's 2 days after it came out, it went to #1 for Dallas-Fort Worth travel. So I was real happy. And Amazon updates their bestseller status every hour, so, you could hit #1 and not know it, but it's pretty much hung out on their top page ever since it came out in March of 2014. So that's nice. I think it was #6 or something last time I looked.
That's not bad, huh?
Yeah, I was happy. It's kind of like when you try to lose weight, you don't want to be stepping on the scale every minute. So I try not to dip in and see where it's at too often, but I do like to.
True that.
Yeah. And then also in April of this year, Unexpected Texas won first place in adult nonfiction at the North Texas Book Festival. So that was super exciting. I was like, yay. It just makes me want to write more. So
yeah,
created a monster.
So. It's kind of like when you go on your first paranormal investigation and something actually happens, whether it be something that you capture on video or EVP or just a personal experience. Once you get that experience, you just keep wanting more. So I'm sure it's just the same with writing books, And
yeah, it is. It's like it's a thrill. You just sort of like, I need to keep researching. All right, someone's reading them. That's a good thing. It feeds you. Like, okay, I'll keep going. So anyway, my second book is Paranormal Texas, and I need to give you a copy of that if I haven't. That's a travel guide to haunted places, and I do mention fear in there.
Yay!
And
Thank you.
And these are all places I have a pet peeve about when I read about haunted places. I don't know if this has happened to you, but you read about it, and it sounds all fascinating. And then you get to the end of the article, and they say, oh, but this is no longer open to the public. It burned to the ground, and they paved over it with, concrete. Forget about it. Like, why did you get me all excited about thinking, oh, I'm going to be traveling through that town. Oh, I want to go see that haunted theater. Don't tell me that. You tell me all about it and then say nobody can visit it anymore. So I only included places that you could actually go to legally, visit. And, of course, don't be rude about it if it's a store or something. But, I wanted to have places that people could actually visit. So that was a big goal with that one. And then the last, so anyway, and then the last
well, that's happened a lot to us. We'll get our heart set on something really cool, like, when I was telling you earlier about the locations that we were having to look for the show, Spirit Quest, and I was like, looking for out-of-the-way places, but, you would, like you just said, get to the whole end of it and go, oh, but there's no access to the public any longer. They stopped doing paranormal investigations like 2 years ago, and you're like, really? Or, like Wolf Manor, in California, they took it down, you know what I mean? And I was wanting to go to that place, and it was so sad to see that place go,
It is sad. You get it, and then you see this great write-up on it. It's even worse. Maybe they'll have photos or something and all this. You're like, oh, that is it. I'm over to Google Maps. I'm looking, oh, I could go there in June or something. I get all excited, and then don't do that to me. So, yeah.
Right? It's not fun. It's not fun for them to do that. The thing that's catching is the lynching of Santa Claus bank robber. What is that about now? Because
I like the way you laughed when you said that. Yeah, I know it's kind of a long title, but it is a strange but true tale of Texas history. It is about a man who dressed up as Santa Claus, and with the help of his buddies, he robbed a bank in West Texas. But it goes on from there, and the true facts of the story, it's more like the plot to a Quentin Tarantino movie. And as I was researching it, I was like, no way, because, it was nuts. Okay, so when while the robbery is going on, some people find out, word gets out that their bank is being robbed. So the local hardware store starts handing out loaded guns to anyone who asked. And this
oh my God.
Even teenagers. They were just like, here you go, buddy, have a gun. They were handing them out. People were like, wee. So they go charging down there, and they just start shooting like crazy, which they did not expect. And so it's just, like I said, it reminded me of like a Quentin Tarantino movie, because there's this huge shootout. And then
that's Santa, man.
and they're shooting each other, and they're shooting walls, and it's just the guys get away, and then there's this massive manhunt, like one of the biggest manhunts ever in Texas for Santa, and it goes on for quite a while. But I thought I was just going to write it up as a kind of a lengthy blog post, and I did mention it in one of my books, but I thought, well, I want to really flesh it out a little and go a little more into detail. But then the next thing you knew, I discovered that the official account that everybody reads about this, because there's been a few books about it, but the official accounts, they use a couple of fake names for people in it. Well, I don't know if you've ever been to that website, Find a Grave, before, but I found out through that, I was led to a couple leads that I found out the real names for a couple people in it. And then I went to the newspaper archives, and I discovered, this sounds so cliche, but I discovered a mysterious blonde woman who I think was involved with at least helping the guys commit the robbery, and she may have even gotten away with murder. So I was like, oh, my gosh. So then I just got totally swept up with it, and I didn't get the book done until March because, I mean, it was just an exciting, like, cold case, you know.
Well, then we definitely need to talk because this is my problem. I have this really cool, actually two really cool stories. They were family stories, and I really thought that they were BS. I'm going to go ahead and tell you on air that I really thought my family, you know how those families have little stories that they tell down through the generations, and they grow, and things get kind of, you know, out of proportion a tad.
Sure.
Well, so I thought the same thing with this story I had that has to do with Bonnie and Clyde. And I was like, you know, this is, you know, there's no way. My grandpa was a constable of Lancaster, Texas, back when they robbed the bank. He walked in on them robbing the bank. They took him hostage. Oh. They tied him up, kidnapped him, tied him up, and left him. Didn't hurt him.
Wow.
Yeah. And we always joked that it was the Yates charm. Okay. Well, I wanted to write a book about this. Problem being is, I told you earlier, I can't even read a book, really, because I'm ADD, and I can't keep focused that long. It's extremely hard for me anyway. I try all the time, but I can't, you know, it's been hell completing a book.
I hear you.
So writing one, I would love to do, and then digging like you did, researching, and you find something else, digging a little further, I found out that this man, that is my great-great-grandfather, his son, was also a law enforcement officer in Fort Worth and kind of lost his noodle and went a little rogue, and they had to actually shoot him and take him down, and I'm like, wow. So the more you dig into your family, you think that one story's crazy. Which I'm still attracted to the Bonnie and Clyde, and I want to follow them.
Yeah, that sounds really
through
good.
That. You know, so maybe you can help me out with that. Maybe I'm not going to make this a funny thing. What's a ghostwriter?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. A ghostwriter for a
for a paranormal investigator. That's pretty awesome.
Well, you know what? It is funny. You really intrigued me because I bump into Bonnie and Clyde a lot when I'm doing research. It's almost...
Oh, yeah.
And I have thought about, like, I'm always coming up with different potential ideas for books, and one of them I've thought would be fun would be called the Bonnie and Clyde Travel Guide, because if they stayed everywhere that they allegedly stayed when I'm looking stuff up, they really stayed at all the best places, and some of them are still around. And I was thinking, you know, I could just do a whole regional travel guide, and then you could people could plan like a date, you know, like a week-long trip to just, do the Bonnie and Clyde trail around here, and it'd be, you know, but figure out which ones are actually true. Because I'm like, but the
hard part, you know.
That is.
We just got back from the Bonnie and Clyde Festival, which is what was it? 81, I guess, years now that the ambush happened, and it was quite a long time ago that the ambush actually occurred because it was in 19.
That sounds about right.
34, I think. Not too long after they robbed the bank in Lancaster, they weren't on the run too long. I don't think, when they got ambushed, but we were at the ambush site, and we did go to Gippsland, and the reenactments and everything like that were pretty cool, and being at the ambush site.
You had.
Oh man, you know, and I've always been drawn to that type of dress, like how the men dress, and how I could have never worn any of that crap that the women did, especially if you had to cinch up stuff. There's no way. But, you know, I've always been intrigued by Bonnie and Clyde or any type of gangster type. The Sopranos was my favorite show. So anything Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, you know, things like that, especially now that I have an actual tie to Bonnie and Clyde. So we need to talk because
for
FEAR Quest is possibly going to do something about On the Trail of Bonnie and Clyde. So we need to talk because we can intertwine that all the way around.
I like to do that with you know, paranormal groups or ghost hunting groups. I like to help them, like provide them some historical background, because I find research relaxing. I'm like a Labrador, fetch. I get all, doesn't matter what, someone at dinner table, I wonder how blah, blah, blah happened. I'm like, oh, I want to look it up. It's just my thing, I guess. I just find it like relaxing. Sometimes
that's the problem with me, is that I don't know where to exactly look for everything, because once you Google something, it comes up with like 1,000,001